Hello, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America, featuring today's top directors sharing behind-the-scenes stories of their latest films and insights into the craft of directing. Please take a second to subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcasts. This episode takes us behind the scenes of director David Michôd's new historical drama, The King. The film stars Timothée Chalamet as Prince Hal, who had turned his back on royal life to live among the people until the death of his tyrannical father. Now crowned King Henry V, the young ruler is forced to embrace the world he had previously tried to escape, and must steer his way through palace politics, chaos, and the war his father left behind. In addition to The King, Mr. Michôd's credits include the feature films Animal Kingdom, The Rover, and War Machine, and an episode of the series Enlightened. Following a recent screening of the film at the DGA Theater in New York, Mr. Michôd spoke with director Neil Berger about filming The King. Listen on for their spoiler-filled conversation.
So congratulations to David. It's an amazing movie. I for one thought it was incredibly beautiful and powerful and
Thanks,
with incredible performances. So, I was just curious why, what drew you to this? Why did you want to make this movie?
Joel Edgerton wanted me to do it. He had Joel in Sydney. I didn't know him back then, but when he was fresh out of drama school, he had played. He played Hal in the Henry IV plays and Henry V on stage to much acclaim. I think it was a seminally important career experience for him. It was with the, I think it was a Bell Shakespeare production, but like a very prestigious theatre company in Sydney. And it was a little bit of a career maker for him, fresh out of drama school. And so I think, about 2013 or something, he came to me and said, "How would you feel about tackling Henry V?" And I thought it was a terrible idea, mainly because I don't know why, but it would never have occurred to me to make a medieval film a swords and horses. But as seems to be so often the case with me, very quickly the challenge of doing the thing I might have thought I didn't want to do became the reason to do it. And what version of that would I do? What would we do? Became the draw.
Right. So you've made 4 very different kinds of films now. They're all amazing. Animal Kingdom and The Rover and War Machine, and now this movie, The King. Is there something that for you? They are very sort of, in a way, 4 different genres. And is there something that ties them to? I see certainly connections in them, but for you, do you see something that kind of, is there something for you that threads them all together?
For me, the thing that seems to thread them all together is that they are all, some way or other, they are all kind of basically about delusional men coming to realize that they're wrong about something, either through delusion or naivety or, but they seem to be movies about kind of very, very, for want of a better phrase, toxically masculine worlds that, that are either movies about in which I am the protagonist. I'm the lost kid trying to work it out, or they are movies about those masculine worlds that frighten me.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with someone today about someone was asking me what my most powerful early film experiences were, and I was just suddenly remembered that they were horror movies. That I was always amazed that as a young kid that movies could make me feel something so viscerally powerful. And I think that, I think I realized that I've carried that into my adulthood, and now as a hopefully a slightly more mature man, the things that frighten me are more sophisticated, but still the power of the thing that frightens me is what's at the core.
Right. I mean, do you think those men, though, they're trying to, in your movies, they're in a way trying to act honorably, even though they're complicit in the sort of insane violence? Would you say that, or
yeah? Well, I mean, but the protagonists are, yeah.
I mean, each of those got, Hal here and McChrystal and War Machine, and
yeah, that's certainly true of the protagonists.
Right.
So on some level, I am either that kind of the naive, lost one, or the delusional one.
Right. So in all those movies, and particularly this movie that we just saw, the performances are just outstanding, obviously from, Ben Mendelsohn and Joel Edgerton and obviously Timothée Chalamet. They're incredible performances. And so, I mean, for a director, it's, you rarely get to see how other directors work. And so, how do you give direction? How do you feel like, you're getting those performances?
Yeah, it's so true. You never get to
watch
watch other directors work. Which is one of the advantages that Joel Edgerton has, for instance, because he's started directing movies, and he's worked with a lot of directors and has been able to watch them work. I just fudge my way through, I just think it's about I've had that experience before of trying to, for instance, directing actors, of feeling like I need to be really careful about how I speak to them. That I can, under no circumstances can I give them line readings. I must make sure that everything I say comes in the form of like a transitive verb. And good actors, as soon as they trust you, as soon as they feel like they trust your taste, and they'll let you say anything,
Right.
And then that suddenly frees me up. I know that it's, my job is to make sure I don't overcomplicate what they're working with. Try and keep the direction simple, but and playable. But I have come to realize that I don't need to be so, literally by the How to Direct Actors book.
Right.
I can use, if they feel safe. A huge part of my job, especially in pre-production and rehearsal, is just about encouraging them to see me as someone they can trust. And then once I've established that, then I can kind of say whatever I want.
Right. And what are those rehearsals, or what do they look like?
I'm always surprised that they end up trusting me, because I still to this day don't know how. I was talking to Joel about this earlier today. I still don't know that I know exactly how to run a rehearsal room. It's partly the nature of movies, that you never. It's so rare that you have everyone available to you. And I think in an ideal world, I would love to run a rehearsal like I think theatre rehearsals happen, where you have the actors together, all of them together in the room for months, and you just slowly work your way through it.
So did you rehearse this movie, though?
We did, and we did it in that normal way where you do it over a couple of weeks, and sometimes you've got different combinations of the actors, and you just try and, I am, even though I say I don't necessarily know how, I still don't know that I know how to run a rehearsal room. I am very firmly of the belief that anything you can get done in that room is valuable, so that you're not having to do it on set, and so that you're just discovering things for yourself, and even if it's just simply a matter of sitting in the room and talking about not the movie, just with the aim of getting everyone comfortable with each other. I mean, that in itself is valuable.
So then when you come to the day of a particular scene, how do you put that scene on your, what's your process as you walk in that morning and begin? You have a set plan of where the camera is going to be, or is it something that you discover, or how do you work?
I used to shot list quite meticulously, and it has become more difficult for me because the last 2 movies I've done with multiple cameras, and I really love working with multiple cameras. I didn't think I would love it, but I remember there was. I remember I remember one scene on Animal Kingdom. It was 4 of our main characters sitting around a table in a diner at night, talking about what the hell they were going to do. And it took 7 hours to shoot this scene, and it was just me slowly working my way around the table with one camera. And by the end of it, they were almost about to physically attack each other, and it was my fault. I was just driving them crazy, having them jammed in a booth. And there's something I really like about being able to move around a room much quicker. I think the actors like it.
So how would you do it now?
Well, now it becomes like a geometry puzzle. You get in there. I mean, the first part of the process is the same as it always was, which is you walk in, you block the scene. I feel freer to let them move around. In the old days, I would meticulously shot list, but that also meant that I was kind of locking them into positions in the room before I'd even seen them block it. I like to let them feel like they can, I'd like to steer it, but make them feel they can move wherever they need to be. But it's always, I don't know what it's like for you, but it's every new scene is exactly the same. When you walk in, you start blocking it, it feels terrible. And then my job, the exhilarating part of the job is I've got I've got half an hour now to make it work.
Right.
And it's exhilarating, and I'm always amazed when we get there, and it's exhausting because then you get through that scene, and then you go to set up the next one. And it's like, okay, I've got to start again. But it's now it's you do that blocking, you set it, I call it, okay, that's the shape of the scene, and then you set up the geometry puzzle with your DP and. Work out the way that you can most efficiently move around the room, the way that works for the light, but will also get what you need and without compromising the shots. But it also I'll go in there. Obviously, there are lots of moments where I have a clear idea about a particular shot I want to do or some particular way I want to cover the scene. But just in general, the coverage feels. You kind of do have to roll with the moment.
Right. And how are you working with your director of photography, or are you setting the, you're working with them in advance and you're designing it, and again, how are you working?
So Adam Arkapour, who shot The King, I hadn't. This was the first movie I've done with him since Animal Kingdom, and the experience was very different for both of us. And Animal Kingdom was my first movie. It was basically Adam's first movie too, and we prepped. It was a single camera. We were shooting on film. We'd get together on the weekends. We'd shot list for the week to come. And in the meantime, we've now gone off and done a whole lot of other things. Adam's shot the whole of the first season of True Detective and a number of other things. The whole of the first season of Top of the Lake. And I've made a bunch of other movies, and we've come together again, and we both just feel more comfortable in just working it out. But and it's a negotiation. It's Adam has a beautiful eye, and so he'll always be offering stuff up, and then it's my job to work out whether or not that is the way that I want to tell the story. And I have very specific. It's like with very particular ideas about the way, the battle, for instance, the Battle of Agincourt in here. It was very important to me that I wanted to make sure I shot that battle with to whatever extent possible a really clear point of view. Like you could follow a narrative through it, follow characters through it to whatever extent was possible, but also make sure it was all shot from human eye level. Rather I didn't. So it was all about making sure that there were, no cameras up cranes or no one was trying to pull a drone out of a truck or anything.
Did you storyboard that scene? Yeah. I mean, that scene's amazing, actually.
Yeah, we had to. There's no way. We could have done it. It would have taken 3 months if we hadn't. So we shot that. I think in an ideal world we might have had 5 weeks or something to do that. We did the battle in 10 days, and it was. That's incredible. And in order to do that, we needed to plan it really carefully. Yeah. But again, no matter how much planning you do, you turn up on a stinking hot Hungarian field, and all the plans go out the window. But at least you've got them there. Right. I know the basic bare bones of what I need, and the rest of it is just like sheer panic.
Right, desperation. And so I'm going to just open it up to the audience in a second. I'm just wondering, what do you have? What are you working on now? Anything, or have you were telling me you've literally just finished this, right?
Yeah, we finished it and finished. I haven't had this experience before of finishing a movie and then packing a bag, getting on a plane, and went straight to Venice and premiered it. It was right. It was kind of good to not. Usually I find myself sitting around for a while. Yeah. Itchy,
Right.
But I have no idea what's next. I quite like that. I feel like everything I've made thus far has been something that I have dragged from the past into the present. It's even Animal Kingdom, because I was writing it for so long. I'm quite excited about the prospect of whatever the next thing is, because whatever it is, it will be of me now, But I have no idea.
Well, right. You're still really in this. It's only a month since Venice or something, right? So
yeah, and I get out the end of it. I don't know about you, but I get at the end of every movie thinking I never want to make another one.
I was going to ask you actually that specific question. So where are you now in that? Are you recovering from that, or you're forgetting or blocking it, or you're still in the never want to make another movie again?
No, I'm familiar with the rhythms now. I can feel it. Just that feeling hasn't passed yet, but right. I can feel it just ebbing away.
Yeah.
And what will happen is I'll find something. Something will just suddenly completely capture my attention, and then I'll become obsessed with it. But I can tell what's going on at the moment. The space for that to happen hasn't opened yet.
Right. Right. Good. Well, hopefully it will. So for all of our benefits. Does anybody have any questions? The question was, what did Plan B, the production company, play in the making of the film?
Well, I'd had a great experience working with them on my last movie. I remember. I think I remember Sarah back there will remember this. I think we were sitting in a restaurant in Paris when we were shooting the little Paris portion of War Machine with Dee Dee and anyway, I can't remember if Jeremy was there, but Dee Dee Gardner and Jeremy Kleiner run Brad Pitt's company, and they were saying, what's next? And I went, well, Joel and I have written this script that we love about Henry V, and we just kind of it started rolling from there. I mean, it became quite organic, and then I brought my long time, lovely, wonderful, very talented Australian producer Liz Watts into the process too, and it all felt very organic, and I feel very well supported.
Is that what they bring to you, support, or do they also just what do they contribute?
Support and taste, and because I like like having partners, you know. I like having people who tell me what they think. I like having people who offer, who give me feedback. You know, so it's very important to me that those people I'm working with have taste. You know, I'm not just looking for someone who'll organize it for me and then get out of my way. You know, I'm looking for people who will work with me, trying to figure the thing out, and yeah, that's what they give me.
Right. Somebody else, hi.
I don't know. Is there something you think I need to tweak? Okay.
No, kind of crowdsource.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, re-edit.
I have a strange relationship to them once they're finished, in that I don't, you know, it's like every single decision up until the point that you finish the final mix or whatever feels like a decision that could have gone the other way. You know, it's, you know, they all feel so crucial. And then as soon as it's over, and I don't. And I had a very strange experience. It was, well, not that strange. I'm sure all directors have it in one way or another at some point, but I was in a hotel room in Australia maybe at the beginning of last year, and I was just bored, and I turned on the television and Animal Kingdom came on, and I hadn't watched it in 7-8 years or something, and I thought, I'm gonna watch this. I'm gonna sit through it, and I was frightened. I was worried that, on the one hand, I was worried that I'd watch it and go, you know, because it's a movie that I made that's still, like, it's probably the film that most people still talk about. You know, I was worried that I was going to watch it and go, oh, it is actually very obviously better than everything else I've ever done, and I seem to be on a downward trajectory. Or I was also worried I'd watch it and go, oh, it's actually terrible, and I'm a hack, you know. And I had this beautiful experience of watching it and going, oh, I'm proud of that movie. It was my first movie. I think I'm a better filmmaker now, but I'm proud of it. And I know that if I made it today, I'd probably make it better. But I look at it and go, but I wouldn't bother. I wouldn't change anything about it. It was of me then, and I feel that way about all of them. You know, that was me then. I made it, and what's next? You know.
Did people hear that about Henry V and how
the rousing speeches
rousing stuff,
before battle? You know,
Yeah.
that I mean, these are St. Crispin's Day speech is, you know, one of Shakespeare's. And yeah, it was like, and it's funny you should mention it, because, you know, Joel and I made a decision very early on for various reasons to move away from Shakespeare. Partly for reasons to do with form, you know, that it really did feel like that version of this medieval movie I would make. I knew I wanted it to be kind of quite raw and real. I wanted to explore to whatever extent possible what 600 years ago might have felt like. And Shakespeare is written as glorious as it is. It's written to be presented on an Elizabethan stage. You know, I don't know that it was ever going to lend itself to the kind of movie I wanted to make. But we knew that we had certain things that we needed to, you know, the key thing that made Shakespeare something that's going to follow us around everywhere is Joel's character. You know, Falstaff is one of the great characters in all of English language literature. And he is a purely Shakespearean conceit. And we knew we wanted to hang on to some form of him for Joel. And so that's that. But beyond that, as soon as it came time to start writing, knowing that we were going to write our own language, build our own story around certain just basic tent poles of the story, I'm surprised, amazed at how free I felt. You know, I never felt like I was having to compete with Shakespeare. I felt that what we were doing is very, very different. Except for some reason when it came to writing that big speech before Agincourt, I really then felt like, oh wow, okay, so how am I going to do this? I'm obviously not going to try and write a speech better than Shakespeare's. And I don't want to write a big, super rousing speech anyway, because that feels like a slightly hackneyed medieval kind of, you deliver the big speech and then the crowd goes, "Roar," and the army roars. And what we liked, and it fits so perfectly with the kind of thematic, the way we were twisting this version of Henry V thematically as well, was that, this is in a way a story. We've turned it into a story about a young idealist who is given great power and great responsibility and is manipulated into waging an illegitimate war. And so it allowed us to have a moment where we were at, the night before the battle. He's sitting by the campfire with Falstaff, and he says, I don't even know why we're here. And Falstaff says, well, man, you got to work that out, because those guys are all here for you. And if you don't know why you're here, then at least lie to them persuasively. And then that suddenly freed me up completely, because it meant I can write the speech and it can be bullshit. It's just like he's doing it not because he believes it, but because they need to hear something. And suddenly I felt free. It's like, oh, okay, I'm not competing with Shakespeare anymore. I'm doing it in a slightly different way. So long as that speech is powerfully delivered by Timmy, then I get to have my cake and eat it too.
Right. It is quite rousing, actually.
And yet it's
no elements
nonsense
at all from the Shakespeare. No.
I think you're probably talking about the shot at the end of his scene with Lily Rose, where she's kind of pulled the rug out from under him, and
he's talking about the profile shot of Hal.
Yeah, I just wanted to have that sense of, it's like there's a couple of two quite long dialogue scenes at the end of the movie, and wanting to be reasonably strategic about how we covered them. I kind of knew from early on that I think I wanted the first one with Lily Rose to be, I'd leave Timmy in mid-shot for pretty much the whole scene and let creep into her close up. And then when he walks into the next scene with William, played by Sean Harris, to almost immediately get into Timmy's close-up and stay there because of everything that's in his head. But that transition between the two scenes, it's like once she's furnished him with this information that's starting to turn his world upside down, to actually there's something about being there rather than here that I think makes me feel like you can feel the cogs turning.
And did you cover that? Did you have it from the front also, or did you make the choice that, like, I'm going to take that risk and be on the side?
Oh no,
you have it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd like to say that no, I knew exactly to the frame what I was doing, but it's you just, if you can, point the camera at everything.
Right, right. Good. Yes, in the balcony.
It was, it's, you take an army of 10,000 to France, it's like, I don't think we ever had more than 280 extras on any given day. So, it's, so much of it is, 280 you can make that feel like a lot of people. And we had 80 horses, and I remember everyone telling me, you don't need that many horses. And
you did need it, or you don't need it?
You don't.
Oh yeah.
But I wanted them, and I think, I actually do think now in retrospect that we got a bit of bang for buck out of that, because 80 horses feels like 1,000. You can just line them up anywhere, and they feel like they go on forever. But so much of it was just about crowd. Really complex. It's actually fun. I haven't done a movie so visual effects heavy as this one before, and I had a lot of fun doing it. I thought it was going to slow us down, and everything was going to be very prescriptive, and and everything needed to be planned within an inch of its life. But it's as I'm sure people in the room know, it's amazing what you can do these days. You can you can handhold an entire thing and fill it out with, the Battle of Agincourt was kind of a huge exercise in crowd replication. Some of it's comp, some of it's 3D, some of it's you can just go nuts, Yeah. And there weren't like anyone, what I had was a really wonderful visual effects supervisor, a guy named Andrew Jackson, he had lived in Australia for 35 years working with Animal Logic and George Miller, and he did Fury Road, and then he's actually English though, and he moved back to London and did Dunkirk with Christopher Nolan. He is very much of that school that anything you can do to do it in camera or to make it feel like you've done it in camera he's like a practical effects guy. That's where he started, and one of the reasons why I wanted to use him is I look at Dunkirk and I go, I love not knowing where the visual effects are, and I knew that he would help me achieve that. Some of those shots scared me, the ones of the ships at sea or the landing on the beach or. I love those shots because they can't be real, but still they feel organic.
Good. Time for one more over here.
I'll tell Jane Petrie you said that. No, it's weird. I think the costumes are beautiful and they are muted. They are. The truth is, I wanted the thing to feel very authentic, but there are certain things where you just go, I can't do this. I can't. If we had costumed and designed the movie the way it probably would have looked, you'd be sick. It looked like the whole movie would look like a bag of Skittles, It's something about
because they were actually more color. They were using more color in those times, right?
It's one of the things. There's certain things I wanted to do. It's like usually when you think of movies set in the Middle Ages, you think of kind of cold stone castles with their kind of bare, dark grey walls, and that's just because most often people, when they're shooting medieval movies, they shoot them in ruins or in old cathedrals or. Actually, there was a lot of colour. There was like whitewash walls and very colourful tapestries, and but there was something about a particular, it's how young people died back then, their relationship to life and death, the psychological and spiritual impact that something like the plague must have had on people. That at the time. The beginning of the 15th century, the population of London was about 30,000. Only 50 years earlier, it was 90,000. 2/3 of the population of the city was killed in the plague. I wanted the thing to feel dirty, and yeah, I never think of Skittles as dirty.
I think it felt dirty. Good. Okay. So I think that's it. Thank you and congratulations. Thank you for a great movie. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you for doing this, Neil, and thank
coming
you for coming
to a theater.
Yeah, coming to a theater. And then a telly.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. If you'd like to hear more, you can find past episodes of The Director's Cut wherever you listen to podcasts. Stay tuned in the coming weeks for more great Q&As with directors Greta Gerwig and Taika Waititi. And be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you can help fellow cinephiles find the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America. Music is by Dan Wally.